Welcome to the Raise Your Game podcast, presented by 226 Sports. I'm Jess Schmittling.
And I'm Alexa Potts.
And today we're going to dive into what it looks like inside of the training environment here at 226 Sports. So we're going to first talk a little bit about kind of the mission. So the mission says, it is to connect families, empower athletes, and simplify sports. So maybe break that down a little bit for us.
Yeah, connect families. To be honest, since COVID, I just have felt an even bigger disconnect because of some of the limitations that we had. So we had to kick parents out of the facility, they couldn't come in, all the fun things, and so we're kind of bouncing back from that. And for us, we want to invite people back in. I mean, to be honest, people got kind of used to running errands or just literally sitting in their car, and I think the reality is that we are not here to replace the impact of a parent. We're here to provide a support. And so really the sports journey is everybody working together. So it's us as trainers and leaders, it's the athletes, it's the families, and we want to connect families in this process. We want families to be able to come in here, we want them to be able to watch training, we want to be able to work out here. Adults can work out here. They can play golf here. And so I think just bringing the family together, sports is sometimes I feel like can almost split families because of the tension and the pressures and the stresses of sports. But I think our goal is to flip that, is to truly make it a family experience and one that people enjoy, and they come to the facility together, and it's kind of their hangout place to come and get swings in or get defensive reps in or get their bullpen done or whatever as a family. And so equipping and connecting families is a goal of ours.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about the fact that families can come and work out here, and so we have a variety of different things. So maybe talk a little bit about what families can expect when they walk in the doors, or maybe what their own experience could be like when they come in.
Yeah, I think, one, obviously we do baseball, softball training, so all the skills from hitting and defense and pitching and catching is done here. We also have a performance gym, and so athletes can, we have lifting classes, we have speed and agility classes, athletes can participate in those. We also have an open gym option for adults, so if they're looking for a gym membership, perfect, they can drop their kid off to train, and then they can go get a lift in. We have a ton of resources and tools available in the gym, and then we also have 2 golf simulators. So if we have a golfer, families can do that as well. So you can have a kid training in here, a kid getting a workout in, while a family is also enjoying the experience that we provide here. So it's really the goal is an all-inclusive experience, a one-stop shop, if you will.
Yeah, and if you're a family that's finding out about us for the first time, there's actually on our social media pages, there's a great video out there just walking through our facility, actually, just being able to see what it looks like, and all of those things that are available to you are on that video to be able to look at as well. So when we think now specific to the training environment, obviously there are a plethora of places out there to train. What makes 226 and their experience different whenever they walk into our doors here?
Well, I think for us, we're not a quick fix place, and so I think that's where we're a little bit different. Is there's a lot of individuals or people or places that are solely just there to get them to perform, and obviously that is a goal of ours. We want athletes to perform better. We want them to play better, right? But the reality is that it's more than the sport for us, and so that's what we take into consideration when we're here. And so it's a long game for us. For a lot of people, training is a short game, right? It's I had a bad weekend, I need to get my lesson in to fix it, right? It's a short-term fix solution, and our training is the opposite of that, right? There is a little bit of, obviously, we reflect on any previous recent competition opportunities that we had, because that will help us understand, is it translating over to the field into game mode, or what are we getting exposed to? So I think there still is that, but it's less of this panic type of training environment, and it's more, we're here for the long haul. We're here to develop your athlete in every step of the journey. So it's not just like, oh, I just want you to get you through this season, I just wanted you to get you through this weekend. We're trying to help you, because there's a lot of transitions and it's stressful, whether you're just starting out in rec ball, you think you might want a little bit more, you're getting into junior high ball, then it's high school, potentially college. I think it's a stressful journey, and we have a lot of experienced trainers who have been through all of those steps, and I think that's the part that's different, is that, and the other piece is the second part to our mission, which is empowering athletes, right? When you walk in here, you're going to hear a lot of conversations. It's going to be trainers talking to athletes, asking them questions, and that could just be a casual question about their day to start off the training session, or it could be a question about what they're feeling in the skill that they're working on. And I think that's where we're different too, is that a lot of places it's just the trainer talking to the kid, and that's just where we're different, is that we are truly here to help empower the athlete. We want them to be more knowledgeable, to have more understanding of their skills, of themselves as an individual, because everybody's different. And that's where we don't want them to be robots. We don't want to just give them the answer, give them the fix, and then send them off, and then they come back and they are not able to make adjustments in the middle of competition. And so the empowering of athletes is certainly a unique piece, I feel like, of what we do.
Yeah, I love that phrase, empowering athletes. I think the truest way to see that in action is like we send them back into their their competition, back in with their coach, and the coach sees something different and maybe asks a question, and the athlete is able to tell them why they've made that adjustment. I think that's so important, is like it is not just trainer talking to athlete, it's getting them, like you said, to understand. And I think the other piece is that it's about training through the transition. So there was quite a few transitions you mentioned in there, whether it's junior high, high school, college, but then also there's training transitions throughout a season. So it's going from like, am I in a heavy playing season? Am I in a heavy off-season development? Where am I at with inside of just like the transitions that we face throughout the year, but then also their long-term transitions too. So,
yeah.
I think if we think about the ideal 226 sports family, what do we think that would entail?
Well, I think if you go back to our mission, connecting families, I think where we see a huge connection to families is when they are involved in their athletes' sports journey. And I think where we feel a little bit disconnected is when it's just kind of the drop-off method, right? It's drop-off, take my kid, we may not say this out loud, but take my kid, give me a breath of fresh air for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, which is true, is so real, right? I think we all need that break. And one of the common reasons we get for people coming to beginning training is because, they won't listen to me, right? And I think there is a realness to having another voice, right? A voice that's not mom or dad. And to be quite frank, a lot of times we're saying the same thing, and I'll be in a, wrapping up a session with an athlete, and I'll talk to a family, and I'll give them kind of my thoughts, and like, oh, you've heard that before. And so I think that's just the reality, though, is like the idea of family is invested in the journey. It's not just, hey, go fix my kid, which is really disconnected. And at home, that family is working with their athlete. So that's another way that we're different is, yes, you come to train with us, but ultimately that one training session a week isn't going to get the job done. And so what we highly encourage is additional reps outside at home with family, to where you can continue to work through what we were working on in that training session earlier that week. So I think for us, like, that family is connected, that family is invested, that family is asking questions, that family is listening, and they're working on things at home with their athlete.
Yeah, I really love that word invested in there. It's like there's a variety of ways that families can show that, but I think at the heart of, they want to see their kids succeed. So to truly be able to see them succeed, you have to understand what's going on as the family, so that you can support them and being able to be invested through that avenue too. So that's great. What's a piece of advice you would share with families seeking training?
I think ask questions. I think a lot of people can give you their speech, right? What they did, what their previous playing experience was, what accolades they have, what rewards. I think really understanding what are the philosophies that they use, because this game, specifically baseball, softball, I think is one of the fastest growing and evolving sports that there is. And as far as just teachings and styles, there's always styles, right? But I think the evolution of the game and the technology that we have and the data that we have, I mean, even back to when I played and I trained formally, turned to now 226, the teaching is completely different. And it's not that it was wrong back then, it's just evolved since then. And so how we teach kids to hit an outside pitch now is very different than what I learned. And so I think that we see, I think a lot of people make decisions off of potentially a convenience, whereas closest place to go train kind of thing, maybe the cheapest place. And I think I'd be careful with that, and do research, and understand what is this place in it for my kid for the long haul. It's in our best interest to find a training opportunity and a place in an environment that's going to support my kid, not just in the sport, but holistically, and that's what we do here at 226 Sports. And so understanding, is there teaching relevance to the game? Are they ever evolving trainers? Are they involved in the game? I think that's an important piece. Like trainers, we coach. And so being able to be out in that kind of competitive environment, we can see the game in that sense. Sometimes we even watch our athletes in that environment to see how they're doing, how it's translating. And so I think those are questions that I would ask. Be careful to base it just off of convenience, and make sure that you dive deep into who are these people, what are they teaching, what are their values, what are they about, and are they going to be a good asset for my kid?
I think the other thing there, just to be careful, is that you don't use lessons as a tryout.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, whether it's convenience or cost or whatever those reasons are, I think another one that we often see come up is because it's potentially going to be somebody they would play for in the future.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really hard to kind of puts a barrier of to be able to get resources that are going to be different than that person. And so not that it's wrong to see somebody that maybe you'll see in the future, but I think at times it becomes this like tryout type of feeling instead of really truly a lesson or being able to be in the long haul with them. So. And so what's a piece of advice you would share with families in regard to their athletes' development?
Well, I think just being in it for the long haul. I mean, I think the pixie, I call it the pixie desk approach to training of, my kid's not performing well, I guess it's the trainer. I guess we got to switch trainers. I think that there's definitely some evaluation that's needed, but I would say just understanding that development is a long haul, and a lot of times you actually, and I felt this actually in a physical lesson or training environment, there's actually steps backwards before there's steps forward. And so I've recalled moments where it's like, this feels a little messy in this training environment. Like it feels like we're kind of going backwards. And then all of a sudden the light bulb comes off. And now it's like, whew. So it's like sometimes it does take the unlayering of things to then get to the other side of that growth and that fruit. And so I think making sure that that's a priority for you, and that you are understanding that it is a long game. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs in the process, especially because of the transitions. You think about the transitions in the game, there's even transitions in like distance on a mound, right? There's transitions of ball size for specifically softball, going to a different, bigger ball as they get older. And I think, and just the game evolves and opponents change. And so I think taking that into consideration, we can get into a little bit of a panic mode once we hit those certain transitions. And it's like, whoo, shoot, like this is a little bit tougher. And I think taking that with stride, and again, being involved with trainers who understand those pieces is important and can help you work through. I think that's another way that we're different, is just the conversations that while it may not be every session, a lot of times our trainers make it a point to connect with the families. And so it's not just, there's a lot of facilities out there that the families came and watched the training session, and it's just like, hey, send them off, send them out. And for us, like, again, it's not every session because sometimes we're getting with another athlete after that, but I think it's important for us to make time to connect with the families to understand, hey, here's what we worked on today, here's my challenge for, Sally, and just, again, to help connect the families. So yeah,
and I think that those conversations are so important because it truly does show the long-haul mindset, or the long-term mindset, because the lesson's going to look different through those transitions and as they're progressing throughout their journey, but the trainer's always going to have kind of that next stair step in front of them as they're thinking about what kind of curriculum are we following here inside of this lesson, versus it being so reactionary based on maybe what they just experienced that past week, and they were 0 for 4, and all of a sudden the world's fallen apart. So I think being able to stay consistent with a curriculum that's always laying out as a stair step approach to help them through those transitions too. So what's a piece of encouragement you would share with families in the sports arena?
It's a hard arena, and I think that part of that, the final piece of our mission statement is around simplifying sports, and there's a lot of distractions, there's a lot of confusing pieces, there's a lot of bad in the sports arena, to be quite honest. There's good in the sports arena, and so I think making sure that there's a constant evaluation of where are we at, what are we investing in, what does my athlete need more of, and making sure that there's a good balance of like understanding the bigger picture of that sports were created, right, to be enjoyed, and there's a lot of benefit from them of lessons learned and such. But I think we can get down a negative path pretty quickly if we get caught up into the bad side of sports, which is very much materialistic driven. It's trophy driven. It's stats driven. It's selfish driven, to be quite honest. And I think that's where it as a trainer and a coach, it gives me a weird pit in my stomach when we experience things like that. It ultimately is about the athlete and their development in the sport, but ultimately a sport that's going to end. And so how are they prepared for life? And I think sports is an avenue for that, and that's why I think God created sports, is to teach us life lessons that are valuable throughout the rest of our lives. But I think it can become our identity. It can become who we are, and so there can become strife that disconnects families, as I kind of touched on earlier. And so making sure that it has the right priority in our family, that it has the right we have the right perspective as we go through this journey, because it can get gross, and we can get kind of wrapped into that grossness if we don't watch it. And so making sure that you're in the right environments for your kids, whether that is training or that is teams, and seeking out different opportunities if it's not the right environment.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, as we wrap things up here, that was all about our 226 training environment. We'll put you on the spot here. If you can think of one word to describe the ideal training environment.
The ideal training environment. Collaborative?
It's a good
I don't know, that was the first word that came up.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. This was an episode of Raise Your Game, presented by 226 Sports, and we look forward to having you guys back to hear more all about the 226 Sports mission.
Yeah, we about to lift off. Hey, been here too long. Y'all better wake up. Time for a new song.